whitewashing history, raining down racial terror, and erasing decades of progress in political representation and economic opportunity. Oh, no. I wasn't talking about oh boy. I was talking about Jim Crow, actually. Which, come to think of it, yeah, it's easy to get confused. They're pretty parallel, and most of us don't actually really know the true history of Jim Crow. But it's not your fault. That's on purpose. Because they only try to erase the history that they plan on repeating. Yeah, let's take a walk. Come on this walk with me because it's high time we connect the dots. Texas, DC, the Smithsonian. A copy and paste of Jim Crow 1.0. Now, Jim Crow is the system of laws and practices that, of course, killed Reconstruction in this company very intentionally. Oh, country. Ooh, what's Reconstruction, you ask? Well, directly following Black people emancipating ourselves from the horrific institution known as American chattel slavery. Yes, it was that bad, Jillian Michaels. After that, there was a period of Reconstruction that was supposed to help Black people fully enshrine ourselves into our citizenship. We were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule. Most folks didn't get either one of those, but we did build schools, build churches, build hospitals, build towns. We educated ourselves and our children. Those Black Wall Streets that you hear so much about, we built a bunch of those. And pretty importantly, we elected 1,500 Black people to elected positions all around the country. 16 of those people made it all the way to the United States Congress. And you should keep that in mind because it's going to come up later. Reconstruction is supposed to create the pathway for Black people to be equal to white people in the country that we built for free. Yeah, white people wasn't feeling that. So a number of historians, journalists, politicians, leaders, they created a pathway for Jim Crow to kick Reconstruction out and start a period of racial terror. How did they do it? Well. First, like I said, they whitewashed the history. Now, if back in the 1800s, white people were talking about American chattel slavery at all, they were most definitely lying about it. A number of white historians in particular pushed this idea of the lost cause, a lie that said that the South was only fighting the Civil War to protect states' rights, conveniently leaving out the part that it was states' rights to enslave people. But if you can convince people that slavery actually wasn't all that bad, then you can convince them that there's no need for Reconstruction. Just like if you can convince people that, racial injustice in the modern day and age isn't so bad, then what's the need for DEI? And you erase history at the Smithsonian so the fraud can keep frauding. You feel where I'm going with this? So first, they whitewashed the history to justify the creation of Jim Crow to replace Reconstruction. Then they justified and executed 90 years of racial terror. Yeah, I bet you didn't know Jim Crow almost lasted a century, did you? Yeah, see, those same historians, along with the help of media moguls, journalists, politicians, they perpetuated the idea that the Black people who were newly emancipated were simply unfit to be citizens. Yeah, no, those people are too unkempt, too unclean, too unlearned in the ways of society. They're savages, really. So they're not fit to be your neighbors, your friends, definitely not your equals. And if you dehumanize Black people, well, then you can justify torturing them. And that's exactly what happened. If that racial terror and torture was not being done by the government, it was certainly sanctioned by the government. We're talking about police violence, the likes of which would make all of us shudder. We're talking about the creation and the proliferation of the KKK. We're talking about lynchings that became entire town events where people would bring their children and send postcards. And of course, like the arbiters of the Confederacy and enslavers before them, most of the domestic terrorists of the Jim Crow era were never, ever held accountable because the government wanted it this way. This was all by design. And something about creating pathologies about Black people then reminds me of the pathologies we're creating about Black and brown people right now. You know, how all of those Black youth in DC are just criminal and have to be locked up somewhere so they don't scare the lily white visitors, or all of the immigrants. Yeah, remember, they're all MS-13. When you dehumanize people, you can justify sending every federal agency and the National Guard to the city to protect all of the innocent white Americans from those doggone criminals. So first they whitewashed the history, then they justified and executed the racial terror. And then finally, they made sure that anybody who might fight back would be stripped of their political representation and economic opportunity to do so. Remember how I told you that by 1877, the end of Reconstruction, there were 16 Black people who had been elected to the United States Congress. By 1901, there were 0. It took over 20 years for the United States to elect another Black person to Congress. It took the South over 70 years. And if you think the Republicans in Texas or the ones in Missouri trying to erase Congressman Cleaver's seat in Kansas City or any of the folks in the 12 states who are trying to redistrict such that they erase at least half of the Congressional Black Caucus, if you think that those people are just going to change their minds because they feel oh so benevolent, think again. This copy and paste, by the way, that is supposed to bring us into Jim Crow 2.0, it was all a part of the plan. And if you still think I'm being extreme, answer me this. Why is the president of the Heritage Foundation, the lead authors of Project 2025, why is his master's thesis and his PhD work in American chattel slavery? That white man literally studied American chattel slavery and didn't say, wow, let me use this to go make the world a better place. No, he said, let me flip and reverse this knowledge and use it against the very people that have already been tortured by this country. Because he has convinced himself and a whole lot of other people around him that advancement for us means punishment for him. We're only talking about equity, not punishment. If we don't get on the good foot now, we are talking about another almost 100 years of pure torture, erasure, degradation, and subjugation. To be fundamentally clear, Jim Crow is the era that continued to strip us of our humanity, engaged in educational and medical malpractice for generations, stripped us of our cities and our property, completely erased the opportunity for generational wealth due to redlining, got rid of public services for everybody just so Black people couldn't use them, burned Black Wall Streets to the ground, completely erased political representation, evolved slavery into mass incarceration, and more. All the BS my people are dealing with right now, American chattel slavery started it, but Jim Crow cemented it. But listen, I'm not one to leave us without any solutions. I don't know all the answers, but here's what I do know. Everybody needs to find themselves a political home. It can be local, like Harriet's Wildest Dreams in DC. It can be national, like the Working Families Party. But you need to get with some people who are educating you and others about how we got here, what we can do about it, and then taking action on that plan. We need to speak up and fight back against every single lie that is being perpetuated about our people, about our neighbors, about what truly happened in this country, and about what's happening right now. Any lie we let slide, they're going to use to try to rewrite the truth in real time. We cannot allow that to happen. Make sure that you are staying up on the news from truthful, and I mean truthful sources. Fact check them suckers, okay? And finally, have community and be community. We're going to need each other to make it through this. I'm talking mutual aid. I'm talking about systemized safety checks. I'm talking about childcare. I'm talking about healthcare. I'm talking about elder care. I'm talking about us taking care of each other. You need to be taking care of somebody else, and somebody else needs to be taking care of you. Because baby, let me tell you something. I ain't going back to Jim Crow, and you should refuse to.